So, the other day I realized, wait, I don't have a video recommending light novels for people that aren't into light novels. That's an essential video you should have. Everybody has videos about getting into stuff, right? There's videos about getting into anime and getting into manga. And I was like, well, I already have videos talking about the medium, but I don't have any videos recommending actual series. So I was like, this is easy money. I'll just sit down and write a video. Everybody will love it. Everybody loves recommendations. People are going to love this video about light novels, about starter light novels. Even people that are already reading light novels will love it. I'm sure of it. So then I sit down, I'm writing my little script. I'm halfway done with the script. And then I'm like, wait, what would actually even be a starter light novel? Like, what light novel would I hand to somebody that has never read light novels, but that I also don't know? Like, I'm blindfolded, I'm deaf, and somebody somehow lets me know that somebody's looking for a light novel. How am I going to recommend that to this person that I don't know, I can't see, right? Because that's the equivalent of the internet. I can't see you. I don't know what type of thing you like. I was like, well, I would just recommend everything on my bookshelf. But that's a big issue because my bookshelf has Monster Girl Doctor, but it also has A Sentence of a Bookworm, but it also has Classroom of the Elite, but it also has I'm in Love with Villainous, but it also has Danmei, but it also has Torture Princess. So my bookshelf is all over the place because I read whatever comes my way. It doesn't matter to me. It could be bad writing, it could be whatever, right? I'll just consume it. There's very little things I won't consume, so I'm the wrong person to be preaching to the choir right now, right? But then what? What could I do? I still want to recommend things to people. I'm sure I still have some kind of recommendation in me. So, but the question was, how am I going to recommend it to people? Because people might not be into isekai. People might not be into kind of like more female-centric stuff, like Otome Game Isekai or Danmei again, villainous, right? The villainous light novels, stuff like that. They might not be into that kind of stuff. Maybe people won't be into like heavy dramas. Maybe they won't be into the supernatural. What can I do? What's the one thing that I'm like that has gotten me to read a lot of light novels in different genres? Then it came to me like a ray of lightning while I was at work. Vibes. So I said, screw the script. Here we go. I'm going to start recommending light novels based purely off of vibes. So that's what I'm doing right now. These light novels that I'm recommending right here, yes, they're great starter light novels if you haven't read light novels or if you haven't read this particular genre of light novels. But more importantly, these are vibes that I like that are coming from these light novels. Okay, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. But guess what? It doesn't matter. I tried very hard to write the script and I couldn't. So now I'm just going to recommend stuff based off of vibes. Let's go. My first recommendation is Boogiepop and Others. Boogiepop and Others is a light novel, kind of episodic, kind of not. Sometimes it's a little weird to say, but it is a light novel about an androgynous, probably genderless creature that lives inside the body of a high school girl, and then it takes over the body of the high school girl, and it puts on a little funny hat, and it can't like smile, and it whistles, and it uses wires and stuff, and it goes and defeats supernatural beings, and you guessed it, the supernatural beings are actually manifestations of the anxiety and frustrations of society as a whole. Boogiepop is actually an interesting light novel because it's kind of considered the first light novel. Now, it's not really clear what you would consider a first light novel. Some people like to say stuff way before it was, I think like 12 Kingdoms came before it, so people like to say that's kind of the first light novel. And then people like to say stuff like Haruhi is the first light novel because it was the one that stamped anime at the forefront, right? It's kind of what pioneered light novels. But I personally consider Boogiepop to be the first light novel, and it's actually kind of the first amongst a certain type of light novel that I like to call urban mysticism. Urban mysticism is basically weird stuff happening on the streets of your city, right? And only like people with the right type of brain wiring can actually see this kind of weird stuff. So it's a lot of weird supernatural sci-fi stuff happening just in front of the eyes of the masses, but the masses can't see it. Only, people that are wired a different way, people that have learned or have troubles can see this kind of stuff. If it sounds familiar, it's because a lot of other light novels, a lot of other series took that concept and ran with it. Say, probably the most famous, the Monogatari series, right? That's kind of the one that honed it and really tuned it into like an actual arc structure type of base thing. This is way more vibes based. And of course, we also have Bunny Girl Senpai, which kind of streamlined it completely. If you want to read the other two, feel free to, right, based off that description. But I personally recommend Boogiepop because it's the most far removed, so it shows kind of the flexibility of light novels as a whole the most. It's exactly what it sounds like. Sometimes you'll have an ensemble cast, sometimes you'll only have two people as protagonists, sometimes you'll have a single person as a protagonist, but it is kind of just a light novel series that is very honed in on, here's this weird little supernatural thing that's happening, and we don't exactly know why. Here's a bunch of troubled teens that are having their own difficulties in life, that are having their own frustrations with Japanese society, and how suffocating it is to be somebody that is in Japanese society. The nail that stands out gets hammered down, right? That kind of stuff. And here's Boogiepop that is going to come through at the end of the day and kind of mix in the troubles of these teens along with the supernatural element into a big, gigantic clash of supernatural and troubled teens and tie them together and split them apart and end the volume in a masterful, classy way. Boogiepop is just fantastic writing. I don't know how else to put it. It's the best at capturing an atmosphere that is walking through the kind of dim lights of the urban streets, right? If you've ever been, wherever you live, if you've ever been in a town that has a lot of like little streets and you're walking around and then there's a little gap where you can't really see, but there's a light up ahead, whether it's a store or it's a car that's running or it's a light post, but there's just this big kind of gap of blackness and you know you have to walk through it. Like, Boogiepop is just really good at capturing that type of atmosphere into light novel form, and it's a non-stop barrage of that, right? It can be daytime, it can be nighttime. There's always going to be weird, decrepit buildings that people are going into, abandoned apartments, schools draped in shadows. Like, it's just dark atmosphere galore, and it's amazing, right? The characterization stuff, the writing, it's all pretty thoughtful. I'd say it's pretty straightforward. It's not too heavy. You're not going to get lost in the sauce of it. It's not trying to be a character study every single time. It can be pretty simple in its troubles, but it resolves them in a classy way. It knows exactly where to keep it at for it to be effective, for it to be tactful. So there goes my first recommendation, Boogiepop. My second recommendation is DanMachi. Completely different, right? Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Now, DanMachi is a light novel that is what I like to describe as a hot-blooded shonen action series disguised as a wacky fantasy harem, because that's basically what it is. The light novel starts and Belle is like this wimpy little kind of like middle school age kid that's running around and being silly. I think he's 14 or something. In a dungeon town, and he has this wacky goddess with big boobs and stuff, and he's like bad with women, and he's like, oh my gosh, he's basically acting like Deku. Like, he was kind of Deku before Deku, and you're like, oh boy, what am I in for now? But then you read the first light novel, and then you read the second volume, and you're like, hold on, why are the fight scenes hitting more than they should, right? You very quickly catch on to the fact that something else is going on here, because the stuff that's supposed to be the wacky harem, the hook of it, is not that much of a hook at all, right? It's kind of a veneer, and behind the veneer, what actually hooks you is how fantastic the fight scene choreography, which is crazy to say fight scene choreography, but it's true, right? It's in a written format, but it's choreography. It's like a fantastic light novel based on action. So if you want to see a light novel that actually has good action sequences to it, it's fantastic, right? Moreover, Belle, you get a lot of satisfaction from seeing Belle kind of grow as a person and become more and more badass as the series goes along. But the badassery never reflects in like, oh, now he has all the girls. He does have all the girls. The title is still How to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, so he's gonna get girls, right? But the badassery doesn't come from what you think of, like him just annihilating people. It comes from kind of how much of a robust hero he becomes. Like, it's one of those light novels. It's not even an isekai, right? Isekai always tries to nail people with the hero title of like, oh, this is a hero. This is an isekai hero. But they're not really. They're more just so people with like insane overpowered abilities that do good because they have the power to. No, Belle is a hero because he gets it out the mud. Bro is like broke, destitute, goes into the dungeon, runs into trouble, pulls through, never dies, and just becomes more and more strong as he goes along, never gives up, becomes more of a solid foundation, and he actually becomes a hero. And I'd say it's fantastic character writing, and because despite the fact that he's shallow in a sense, because there's not an insane amount of characterization to his character, he's just really strong and he fights a lot, the fights themselves reflect his growth. And there's no way really to describe that unless you go read it on your own, but it's exactly what I'm saying, right? Like, as the fight is going along, you're seeing Belle grow. Like, the descriptions of the fight intertwine with Belle's thoughts, with his feelings. Like, it's literally like we gotta learn to know each other through our fists type of thing. Like, that's literally what it is. Belle gets to know himself through his own fists, and it's dope. As for the fight scenes themselves, I'll just give you a little, it's not necessarily a spoiler, but I'll give you a little nice little hint. Volume 14 is, I believe, 400 pages or so, 400 pages and change. The whole thing is 2 fight sequences, and that's not a joke. That is not a joke. A fight sequence starts in the first page, and then it goes along to the half of the book, concludes, and then the other fight scene with the other characters starts, and it goes until the end of the book. It's 200-page fight sequences. It's crazy, and it works. It's like super intense. You don't feel it. You're just going. The first time I read it, I finished it in one sitting, literally, because I was unemployed, because I didn't have a job. That's why. Sorry, but yeah, it's fantastic. I recommend that one. Next, we have bottom tier character Tomozaki. So bottom tier character Tomozaki is, it's tricky. It's a romance light novel, and a lot of romance light novels, I'll be honest, they're very much like manga and anime. There's not that big of a difference between romance light novels, other than maybe characters being a little deeper and the fact that they have to end a little quicker. There's just not as much time to stall, so they end quicker. And the characters are a little more, deep. You gotta fill the space with a lot more monologues, so you get to know them a lot better. That's kind of the only difference. But there is kind of this weird subgenre that sprouts here and there. It's not necessarily a staple yet, but it is kind of becoming one, and that is the kind of anti-romance light novel. And I don't mean that to say that there's no romance in the light novel. It's just that the author very willingly writes obtuse romance protagonists. Bottom tier character Tomozaki is about this guy. He's like a Smash Bros player, a stinky Smash Bros player. This is not a joke. I'm not exaggerating. This is literally what the plot is. And then he's gonna meet another Smash Bros player that's really good, and it turns out to be like a really cute girl. And he's like, oh my gosh, she's a cute girl, and she's from my class. And then the girl's like, ugh. And he's like, huh? And she's like, ugh. And he's like, what? And he's about to go on like a crazy incel rant or whatever. And she's like, dude, chill out. Look, you're not showered, your hair isn't done, you're dressed like a bum, you got on the cargo shorts and the Zelda t-shirt. Like, come on, you got your Switch in your cargo shorts pocket. I can see it, bro. I can see that right now. And he's like, oh, well, but we gamers, we're so oppressed. And she's like, what if I taught you how to dress and smile and make friends? He's like, for real? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, that sounds awful. And she's like, come on, dude, come on. You're a real gamer, right? You're a real gamer? And he's like, I'm a real gamer. And she's like, all right, well, it's game on. Let's do it. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And that's the plot. Guys, I'm not exaggerating. That is the actual plot of like the start of the first light novel. But anyways, bottom tier character Tomozaki is basically a self-improvement book disguised as a romance light novel, because Tomozaki has basically thought, hey, I know you're an oppressed gamer, but actually, if you were a little less abrasive and you knew how to communicate and you were a presentable person that looked like they wanted to talk to people, there's a lot of people that would be willing to talk to you. And so she pushes him out into the world and he tries it, and surprised. Yeah, like a lot of people are a lot more open to talking to somebody, even like popular people, because guess what? Popular people are popular because they got people skills, not necessarily because they rule the hierarchy with an iron fist or whatever. But I know a lot of you people that are misanthropes are right now like, that's not true. Society isn't like that. People hate us. You shouldn't conform to society. You should be yourself. Well, yeah, Tomozaki's himself as well. Actually, most of the conflict from the series comes from Tomozaki adapting to society and learning how to talk and stuff, but not being willing to abandon his sense of self completely for that sake, which is where the conflict with the female protagonist comes from, right? Because she has abandoned her humanity completely in order to fit in, and he hasn't. And it's also not like all women are superficial thing. No. She has a lot of characterization as well. But that is kind of the conflict. And Tomozaki is willing to put his actual reputation on the line in order to stand up for what he believes in. But that's not the appeal of the series. The appeal of the series is that it's a perpetual cringe machine if you are somebody with any type of social anxiety. Like Tomozaki has to ask for his popular friends' Instagrams. He has to talk to the cute coworker he works with. He has to perform at the talent show. Like, if you're an introvert like me, this sounds like hell on earth, and it is described in vivid detail. It's described in vivid detail. If you have social anxiety, you will be wincing through this whole thing, but that's where the fun comes from. It comes from getting through the pain, through Tomozaki's pain. It's like the first training. It's so ironic, because that's why it's called bottom tier character Tomozaki, because he literally is kind of at this bottom of the social hierarchy, and he has to learn to operate with his moveset in order to operate better within society. And it's painful. It's really painful, right? Like in a fighting game, it's painful when you got to learn a character, and it's painful when he has to learn about society. But he's a gamer, so he gets through, because he's a real gamer. All right, my next recommendation is going to be the Apothecary Diaries. Now, if you're an anime fan, people have probably talked your ear off about the Apothecary Diaries. Maybe you're not interested in trying out the light novel because you see the anime everywhere. But maybe you should try the light novel because the anime is everywhere. Because that way, if somebody asks you, oh my god, have you seen the Apothecary Diaries anime? You can be like, no, but I read the novels though. And then they can be like, oh yeah, it was so crazy when this happened. And you're like, oh, yeah. Well, what happens later is much crazier. Let me tell you that. Guys, I am guilty to, like, I've done that. That's why I'm saying that, because I've actually done that to people in real life. But the Apothecary Diaries is a light novel about Mao Mao, which I like to call the unhinged female protagonist. There's a whole genre of these. It's basically a female protagonist that is a little kooky beans, and she does a lot of crazy stuff, but that's what makes her like a very girl boss, and you want to follow her along and you want to cheer her on. And Mao Mao is one of those. She's immune to poison because she's drank so much of it. She's tattooed freckles into her cheeks because she doesn't want to be that attractive. She grew up in a brothel, right? Like her sisters, they're ladies of the night, so she has a lot of experience on that front. And then she gets stuck inside the palace where the Chinese emperor's harem resides. And guess what? Drama ensues, mysteries ensue. But she's too like autistic for her own good, so she goes exploring all the mysteries and she goes getting her nose in all the drama, and that's what the light novel is, right? It's just a perpetual state of mysteries and drama, mysteries and drama, mysteries and drama. Fantastically written. This is actually what I would like to call a light novel that didn't even need to be a light novel. I appreciate the art style. I love Mao Mao's design, but really you could rebrand this into like a regular old novel and people would pick it up and they would read it and they would think it's fantastic as well. It's just that much of that the writing is just that solid. This I would slot into the drama category. If you want to see the extent of like the drama within light novels, this is a perfect light novel for that. It really shows just how seriously a lot of these authors take their craft, right? I don't really have much else to say about it. Like I said, a lot of people already know it, but I will say, hey, if you're tired of the anime, you're tired of seeing people cosplay it, don't pass into the light novel. It's just solid all around. Like objectively, you should give it a try, even if you didn't enjoy the anime. I haven't even watched the anime because the light novel is enough for me. Like literally, that should be enough to tell you, right? Sometimes I'll check out an episode of a light novel anime here and there. This is one of those that I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't need to go watch that. This is like probably the best it's gonna get. So there you go. Now for my final trick, isekai. We got to talk about isekai, right? I've gone through the drama, I've gone through the romance, I've gone through the weird urban mysticism that started things. We have to talk about isekai, guys. I have nothing to recommend, not because I hate it, Isekai is best. I made a video called Death by a Million Isekai, where I talk about all the isekai genres that exist within isekai. It's kind of impossible to recommend stuff in the isekai genre. I love isekai, but yeah, go check out Death by a Million Isekai video if you're interested in it more, because it is a very sprawling genre and I want to do it justice. And you know it can be a recommendation list if I don't throw in my edgy pick in there, right? So I'm gonna throw in Torture Princess. It's technically an isekai, but it doesn't feel like it, right? It doesn't feel like it. The protagonist is a guy that feels no pain, and he gets a cool robot mate that fights with a death scythe next to him. And the female protagonist, she's a torture princess with a bondage dress that makes giant nails appear, and she stabs people with them and stuff. In like the first volume, she's ripping out her own guts. I don't know why she's doing that, but she's doing that. It's just unhinged violence, rivers of blood, literally like the sky turning red from how much blood is dropping around and stuff. But it has this perfect balance where it just goes into super cheesy romance and like found family stuff. It's insane. The arc structure is super interesting too, because it's 9 volumes. And the reason it's 9 volumes is because every 3 volumes, something happens at the end that switches up the story into like not a different genre, but just a complete. You're like, how did we get here? Okay, I guess we're doing this for another 3 volumes now. That's the type of light novel it is. I'm not gonna speak too much on it. If you liked very edgy stuff, if you want to see, like Mirai Nikki, Elfen Light, or whatever. Like if you like that brand of edge, Danganronpa, that kind of stuff, Torture Princess is going to be right up your alley. It is fantastically written, and it's also a good it's a good way to see, okay, here's how weird light novels can get, right? Because I couldn't imagine this adapted. It got a manga and it was bad. Like that's how you know, like manga adaptations of light novels usually aren't that bad. The manga it got was pretty bad, and I don't want this getting on anime if it's not by like Studio Shaft or something, because it's just like the vivid descriptions of the insane gory stuff that's happening. There's no way you can do that in anime format if you don't actually put your mind to it. So yeah, it's just one of those that I would label unadaptable, not because anything that happens within it or the way it's written is crazy, but just because it's so off its rocker that it would make no sense in any other medium but a light novel. So that's it. Those are my recommendations. Do they make any sense? No, they don't. They don't make any sense. But I'm tired, and I went purely off of vibes, and I'm running out of steam now. So that's it, guys.